how's your shoulder? Oh, I was in the gym last week. I did feel this little thing in my neck. It's kind of there, but not really. Let's just get rid of that thing. So that's like my big take home for people is no, you don't always have to be in pain, especially if you're active. So
yeah, and also too, like you're saying, like I haven't been in pain in a while, like for a while. Like I just ran my first marathon in January, and I trained I trained and did all the training myself, and then I just recently just got my blood work done. Like everything's like pretty darn good. But like I know, like you're saying, the 6 to 8 weeks, like I know, like my ankle mobility, my ankle, like my ankles could be a lot better. Like I know, like personally, like hey, like I wear barefoot shoes like 24/7, but I'm still wearing squat shoes and Olympic shoes to squat.
right.
And yeah, I'm not an Olympic lifter, and I don't need to squat ass to grass, and I'm also not a paid like athlete in that sense, and I don't need to be in that position. But it's always like been something where it's like I do quite a bit of yoga, and I can't get in that damn yoga squat. Like, and it pisses me off. I have to go on my toes. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like something like that, and it's like like when everything is going perfect, like there's still something, like you're saying, like like even if you're not feeling in pain, but there's always something that like you could probably do better, right? Like like what about like in my opinion, for the powerlifting and bodybuilding world, and right off the top of your head, like flexibility, movement is like very harsh when it comes to like being able to get in different positions for those people that train in the strength world or in the bodybuilding world. So that's important. Like, so like someone like me, like I know for sure, like my ankles need work. Like I definitely know. But that's awesome. Anything you want to add on that aspect? Or
So biggest thing with that is what I see a lot, right, is pain is like the last final thing people really notice. Usually it's the lack of motion, then it's that stiff, achy kind of thing, and then pain usually ensues with majority of things, right? So like again, your ankles feel good right now. They're not painful, they're kind of stiff, maybe lack of motion. Well, that's usually what sets someone up for issues further in life. And that's oversimplified. It's not always 100% true, but most people back stuff, right? Sorry about that. They have, a stiff, achy back that's been, not feeling great for a while. Then all of a sudden, oh, here comes pain. And, oh, now I haven't been able to touch my toes for years. And now my back hurts even if I think about touching my toes. So there's this like progression system. That's why we try to be that guy in the beginning of this to make sure you don't get to that point. Because do you know what the number one cause of low back pain is?
Probably people sitting.
Previous low back pain. It's a trick question, right? But it's like, if you get something, you're more likely to have that again because it's, well, like you said, you might be more susceptible from sitting. So guess what? You're not just going to never sit again. So you get out of your back pain. We see this cyclical, thing of back pain, not back pain, back pain, not back pain, because they're doing the same thing over and over. We try to be, let's get rid of it the first time and then teach you so this doesn't come back.
Yeah. I'm actually standing right now, so I have a sit stand.
Look at that. Good.
I've been. You should. Hopefully, you'd be proud of me. When I first started because I've been at my company for 8 years now, and when I was 21, they didn't have sit stands. Desks were like so expensive. Like they weren't on Amazon for like $100. You couldn't get something where you throw on top of like a regular desk, and they were like $800. I was an early adapter. We had shelves at my work, and we had the regular desk. Like now my company has like it, but we're not in the office. But our company has like sit stands desk if you want to go in the office. So like we didn't have that back when I started. But like there were shelves. So I put my 2 monitors on the shelves because I worked off 2 monitors. And then what I did was I put my tower of my PC on top of the desk, like right below the monitor. So my shelves were about like probably like where my mouth is or my nose, and then the monitors were a little bit higher than that. And then I put my keyboard because like regular standard desktop PCs that we had like back in the day, they were like long enough and wide enough to hold a keyboard. So I would put my keyboard there and then my mouse on top of the shelf by like kind of the monitor. So my mouse game was kind of whack, but like my keyboard was pretty much lined up with like it was like pretty much parallel to like where my forearms were, like just if I held my shoulders back and then my wrists down and my hands down to type. So I was like one of the earliest adapters because of the Kelly Starrett stuff. I think when I was in college or like 19, 20 years old, that's when like, he was always big about like squatting all the way down when you're sitting on the couch and watching TV, lay on the floor, stand at your desk. So I've been standing for work now for like forever now, I feel like. And I don't stand the whole 8 hours, but like if I can do like 3 to 4 hours, like that's like a goal. Like that's like 3 to 4 hours out of half the day. That's like awesome. So
well, it's good because you always want to have like a moving posture. Like sometimes I'm sitting, sometimes I'm standing, sometimes I'm leaning. Like if you're just moving like that, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, it just also I'm an antsy person. Not to go off the name Antoine as much because of it's in the name, but I'm just typically an antsy guy. There was something I wanted to ask you. So I think it was back about like you were talking about how you sometimes want to get in front of people because they're either the lack of motion or moving wrong or right or whatever the case may be before they get to that pain spot, right? A lot of the times, which we've talked about in the past, but definitely want to get your aspect, and I want to get your take on it. But like, say if someone has like ankle pain or acute pain, and I feel like back in the day, or typically people would say, get rest, get rest, get rest. And like, obviously if it's more serious, like they broke their back and they can't walk, like, I'm not suggesting them to walk. But like, I think like my question is, because typically people would always say to rest, to ice, to heat. And I know some of that does work in some nature, but like, what's your thoughts on that? Like, do you ever tell people to stop moving, or do you tell them to keep moving as much as possible in a safe manner? Like, what's your thoughts on that question?
That's a really, really good question because I like to differentiate people. There's two types of pain, right? You have an inflammatory and mechanical. There's more, but those are the two predominant ones. An inflammatory pain is like, hey, I sprained my ankle, I got hit, I got in an accident, like something pretty serious where if you take anti-inflammatories, medicine, ice, heat, that's going to calm that pain down. Then there's the other one, it's mechanical. It's a movement-based thing where pain will usually get better with movement. Okay, so there's a certain movement you need to do. So I give the example for the neck, right? We're usually always here. This is usually not great for people, and then all of a sudden they can't get their head back here. Okay, we need to restore motion there to get rid of their pain. Okay,
and for the people listening on audio only, he was rounding his shoulders a little bit, and his head was a little bit forward, and his shoulders were pronation, and then his head was a little bit forward, and he was looking like kind of like a hunchback. But go ahead. Sorry.
Bad posture. No, you're good. So people like that, it's like, hey, I don't want to tell you to not move, right? I just have to maybe tell you to limit some motion. Here's a really good example I use. I tell people, if you got a scab in the back of your knuckle and you keep bending it, right? You're bending. Does that scab ever heal? No, because you're constantly breaking it open. I say, hey, short term, let's stay away from bending for a couple days, let it heal. And now I'm going to make sure you have all that motion again. So there is like, okay, ankle sprains. I get an ankle sprain. Yeah, hey, tomorrow you're not going to move that ankle much. You might do some pain-free motion stuff, minimal, but we got to, scale you to that. But I think there's a lot of fear avoidance. People with back pain, if it's a mechanical-based pain or a movement-based pain, I got to teach. I get people moving on day one. Like they're leaving my office moving every couple hours. But the common thing is pain's bad, I'm going to stop. So hurt does not always equal harm. Just because something hurts doesn't mean something's damaged. Unless, again, you got hit, you took a fall, things of that nature. But it's a common misconception for people. If you have pain, don't touch it. Don't move.
Yeah. Two things to that. I wanted to, I know, like I said, it's going to be random, but two things to that. That's why, so back pain is probably, I would say, you probably know more than I do, but probably the number one thing that's, that anyone has pain in. And like, someone like my brother, it's so weird. It's like, he doesn't want to squat. He doesn't want to do any like back exercises or leg movements because it could flare up his back pain. I'm the type of person that typically thinks like this, right? And correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
I think if you kind of look at the problem, like you were saying, you might need to move better, or your lack of motion is off, or in my opinion, like if there is something like lagging, like something you need to strengthen or improve on,
Yeah.
that issue, like say if it's like, like a disc issue in your back,
Mhm.
sometimes some of that stuff doesn't go away for a while. But if you could do like things around it and strengthen areas, even strengthen the back or your core, let's just say,
Yeah.
I always think that's such a great idea for someone that's in pain. I know that's a big and general question, but what's your thoughts on that?
No, you're 100% right, because most people, like I said, they get back pain, they avoid certain things, and they're going to continually avoid that for years and years and years on end. Now you've lost that range of motion, that's super sensitive to pain, and it doesn't just get better with rest, right? Because it's a movement-based thing. So we get these people that avoid, like they're like, oh, I don't even try to bend over and touch my toes anymore because I know it's painful. Well, now you don't even have the ability to reach past your knees if you bend forward, and now you're 56 years old and you want to pick up something off the ground. It's literally impossible. So you have to still, and that's why like I get people on day one. It's like, what can you do to progress your back pain and stay moving?
Yeah. Yeah. And
right.
yeah, no, I like that because I'm glad that I'm somewhat right. Obviously, like I don't have the education and everything that you know, but like I always thought that was such an important thing. Like, and also too, like, and I know this is out of order, and I wanted to talk about something else too, and I hope I don't forget about it. But like even with people with like foot pain or the one thing I hate the most, and I don't know if you get it, and obviously you make a living off this, and I don't, is the oh my arch in my foot, I need cushiony shoes and whatnot. I definitely want to. This honestly might be a question for another time, but if you had a general sense, because I'm always curious and I want to learn more. But like even like the barefoot training and foot strength and foot mobility and all that good stuff, like is that something that people like always come across too? Because I feel like besides back pain, it's always like my feet all constantly hurt. For some reason I don't have an arch, and a lot of people will ask me because like I brag about barefoot shoes, and I don't even know your background about barefoot shoes and what you think about them yet until like obviously I finished with my statement. But like people, every time I tell them about barefoot shoes, or like I tell people all the time, my family, my friends, people I meet at the gym, and they're always like worried about, well, I don't want flat feet, I don't want flat feet. And
Right.
Kyle, I'll tell you this right now. I actually used to rock OG barefoot shoes. If you remember like the Reebok Power Shoes by Jesse Burdick and Mark Bell,
Yeah.
I've had those are my first two pair of barefoot shoes. And they were somewhat not barefoot because they had a little bit of a little bit grounds on them. But I'm telling you this right now, my arch has never been like as big, and my feet like never hurt, and it's like crazy. But I wanted to get your opinion on that real quick, because in my opinion, like a lot of people say their feet hurt, and also that leads to like knee pain, hip pain, back pain. So I know you could talk all day on that, but in a general sense, in a general answer without going too far, like what's your thoughts on like barefoot shoes and training? Because people always say like my feet are gonna get flat, and I'm telling you right now, you could put like a pad under my arch on how big my arch is still, and I wear barefoot shoes all the time.
All right, so here's the thing. I'm a huge proponent for barefoot shoes. I think they're phenomenal. Where people go wrong is they try them once and their feet still hurt, and then they say, I'm done. Yep. Well, the human body takes time to adapt, just like anything. If I said, hey, we're going to go do 1,000 squats today, you're like, I'm going to be so sore tomorrow. Well, yeah, because you don't normally do that. Let's say we do 10 today, 10 tomorrow. Like, you got to get used to those things. People go the opposite, right? They demonize the flat foot. There's research that contradicts a lot of it, but some people have a high arch, some people don't. Obviously, there's more benefit to having some arch. But people who don't, they get put in these shoes, these orthotics, and the foot just becomes a passive thing. We know there's no movement there. The foot doesn't move. We go up the chain, like you said, there's issues. For most people, I look at like, okay, you can wear barefoot shoes. Let's just look how well everything moves, and just teach them that You're not going to go 8 hours tomorrow with barefoot shoes. You might just do 30 minutes. Okay, you're gonna be a little sore. Great, keep going. Like there's just it's all about implementation in that, right? I think they're amazing.
My only problem is that they're so damn expensive still. I use Vivo. I've used a Reebok.
Oh yeah.
I've actually had a pair of Zero shoes, but I actually had to return them. They weren't as wide as you think. I don't know if you've ever you probably seen them because they were like on Shark Tank and stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't like them. I had to return them. But like Vivo Barefoot actually has a site I've mentioned a million times, but they have a site called Revivo or Revivo, whatever how you pronounce it. And they sell like older models for like cheaper. So like I know like the Primus lights are like $180, but like 180 bucks for some people for shoes, especially if you're training in them, walking in them, they're like, well, I don't want to spend 180 bucks. But I've gotten like a brand new like older generation shoe for like $100, so like almost half off. And I say those are like my favorites. But like there's other brands out there like Barefoot by Chris Duffin that I want to try. But like you were saying, to the point is like when I first started wearing them, I would only wear them to train, or I would almost only wear them to like walk. And then eventually like I just started wearing them all the time, and we're like so my wife and I lived in Arizona for the past 2 years before this, and we just moved back at the end of last year, and we experienced our first winter in 2 years. So like I had to go out of my way and buy like barefoot boots because like the thing is like my feet don't even like regular shoes anymore, and unfortunately like now I have to spend a lot of money. Like say if I need like a like a specialty shoe like a boot and like something that's going to keep my foot warm, like now I had to spend good amount of money because those shoes aren't cheap. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
A big problem, I think people too is like, okay, hey, the cost is so high, and when they first came out, people, the style of them, they're like, I'm not gonna wear that. Like I'm gonna
they look ugly.
Okay, throw that out the window. People are gonna make fun of you no matter whatever you do, right? But that was the thing I think that's stopping a lot of people is the look and the price, right? If they really knew the benefit of it and experienced it, like if you gave someone a free pair of shoes and said, hey, try these for a month, it'd be a lot different.
Yeah. So speaking of which, do you own barefoot shoes, or what kind of shoes do you rock?
I have a couple. I haven't worn a ton in the clinic. I haven't gotten like the dressy or kind of like shoe. And I have a wider foot, so I like wearing like my running shoes. I don't run in barefoot. I do the ultras though, so I always try to get something that's a wider box at least, and minimal heel to toe drop. Like when I was in CrossFit, the nanos were big, so there wasn't a ton of that huge cushion in the back. I try to avoid that stuff.
I used to rock nanos were my training shoes before barefoot shoes. I had a bunch of like the Reebok nanos. And you see what I'm talking about? Like I've never done CrossFit, but that's like such a CrossFit thing to say, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah, 100%.
Powerlifters, like, dude, you got to wear Chuck Taylors, you got to wear Vans, and I wore those. Yeah, I used to be a skater, so I used to wear Vans all the time. Also, I mentioned before, and you said you need something for clinicals, and they actually look really nice. I don't know if you heard of them, but you should check out Splay shoes, SPLAY. Yeah, so like you splay your toes, So they actually you could buy them on eBay, but they actually sell like canvas style shoes. So I have like a baby blue. Yeah, so they almost kind of look like Vans, and they're wide toe box. I love them. So those are like my shoes. Like when I go out to dinner, like yesterday, I would wear those, and they're really nice. And they actually just came out with their first like leather pair. They have like 3 colors of leather. So like even if you need to wear nice shoes in the clinic, like I would suggest those, because the canvas ones, they actually sell like older models on eBay, like brand new. They're not refurbished, they're not used. They sell them for about $50. Brand new, they're about 70. And I think the leather ones are going to run you around like 100. But those are probably, if you need like a casual shoe, because Vivo, they're expensive. Like Vivo, like for the casual style, like leather shoe, like you're talking like $200. And unfortunately, like I wouldn't want to suggest that because that's pretty expensive for shoes. But like Splay shoes, I actually, when I was in Arizona training at the gym, I met a guy, and I think he was a chiropractor, and he's the one who told me about this. And this is when my wife was pregnant at the time. He goes, I have all my kids in them. My wife uses them, and he had a pair of Vivos on, because that's how I talked to him.
Yeah.
Because I introduced myself and was like, I really dig the shoes, because not a lot of people wear barefoot shoes as much. And he says he's the one who told me about him. So shout out to that gentleman. I forgot his name, but he was a chiropractor in Arizona, and those are some good shoes to go by.
Right.
My next question, because I want to definitely get the introduction portion, and you kind of mentioned it in the beginning, because Gainz Podcast is, we're talking about, lifting weights all the time and whatnot. So for you personally, I want to know about you. Like, what is your current, you said you did CrossFit in the past, but like, what is your current training style? Like, what are your goals when it comes to like lifting?
Okay. So that's the funny thing. So as of lately, and a lot of people might not know this stuff, we can probably do a whole episode on just like what this training stuff is. So functional range conditioning, that FRC, it's been thrown around for a while. It's more of a joint-based training model, because the whole idea is Dr. Spina says the best, but every external movement you do is created internally. So that what that means is, even if I'm doing a bench press, I have to have my shoulders moving really well, my elbows, my wrists, my upper back. So my training basically starts by priming all of that stuff to get ready for what the task is that day, whether it's the bench press, whether it's, I bounce back between some pure strength stuff like max effort. I like to do a lot of hypertrophy stuff some days. I throw the cardio stuff in there for heart health, Peloton running, whatever it is. But my main thing is kind of like the joint training to keep everything moving really well, to then go ahead and execute the lifts. It's also what my career is too, right? So I got to really make sure I stay good with all those things, because I can't tell someone to go do something I can't do. But I have a newfound love for it, because it's something different. I did CrossFit for a long time, got into like the bodybuilding, hypertrophy based stuff, didn't do a ton of pure strength stuff because I did a lot of it with CrossFit. Now I'm almost blending it all together, where it's got the joint stuff, the strength, the hypertrophy, and the cardio. So it's not as set as it should be, because I kind of bounce around depending on my schedule, but I have a general idea.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, and we preach that a lot too, and that's okay, right? That's definitely okay. Like, we always say, like, just because like Antoine loves powerlifting and bodybuilding doesn't mean you need to do powerlifting and bodybuilding. I love the style of, like, let's just say like you wanted to do pure strength for like 4 to 8 weeks. You do that, and at the 8 weeks you're like, I liked it, but I really miss like the hypertrophy side of things. I miss my explosiveness, and like my, like maybe doing EMOMs, like maybe every minute on the minute, or maybe doing like faster sessions, like your old CrossFit style training. Or you're just like, hey, I really want to just bike for 8 weeks. I don't want to lift, but I want to do like a biking program. Kyle could hit up the Old Plank Trail and bike that thing for days. I actually don't even know how far that goes. How far? Did you know how far?
It's far. I don't know the exact mileage, but it is. You can get on that thing forever.
So when I lived in Mokina, I used to bike that for one of my bodybuilding shows. My cardio was biking. Real quickly, the one bodybuilding show I did was the Stairmaster, which I'll never do again because of that. And then my second style of cardio was walking and biking. So I used to bike down that when I used to live right by the Hickory Creek entrance of the trail. So I would go through like that Forest Preserve area and then cross like Route 30 and then so I pretty much like lived right over there in Mokina, so I'm very familiar with that trail. But that was a joke to you, because I just back to that message. It's like, you don't need to be like, laser focused on like just pure strength. If you want to, go ahead, but if you don't want to, you don't need to. It's just like, if you're not getting paid for it, but you want to do something that you like, then why suffer? I never. But back to the beginning of what you said too. I've been doing full body now for like over a year. So full body workouts, and that message in the beginning was awesome. It's like, hey, I'm prepping myself for the training session. So if I'm benching, I'm prepping myself for that training session. And a lot of the times, I think I did in the past too, and a lot of times people do it, but I feel like I that's why I like the full body training. it makes me prep for the training session before I actually train, because people think I just go in there, train, and then just leave sometimes.
Right.
Yeah, I bet they probably think the same about you, which if anything, it's a more like 5 to 10 minutes block training than 5 to 20 minute block afterwards, which unfortunately, this is why I don't work out 7 days a week, because my wife would be like, dude, you got to get home. Like you got to get home. You got to get home. You got to watch the kid. You got to do some chores. But like you said, the preparedness for the training session is so important. I want to hit that nail and kind of ask you about that, because I feel like the full body thing has made me like even prep my body even more, because like I might bench press, right? But then afterwards, I might do like a calf raise. I might do a leg extensions. I might even do a goblet squat. So I think what you said there, and I think that's what helped me right now. Like I haven't been hurting or been moving so much better because of the fact that I focus on my full body pretty much for my training sessions. And if for some reason like I didn't do X, Y, and Z before doing goblet squats, but I did, shoulder work for my bench press, and then my bench went well, and then all of a sudden I hurt myself, or my goblet squat doesn't feel right. So can you? I know we're about to hit our hour mark.
No, you're good. You're good. But this is a good one.
This would probably be my last question, because I know we could go on for days, and hopefully, Kyle, you could come back onto the Gainz podcast. Hopefully you like the experience, because we would like to have you. But what's your thoughts about that? Like I know I spitballed it quite a bit, but what's your thought about like the preparedness portion of the training session?
Okay, so I think you've nailed it with the reason why full body is so great. I think a lot of people want to hyper specialize in fitness that are getting paid, that are competing. Like, so someone wants to just go do bodybuilding. They might go in there and they have chest and biceps that day, and they're doing 40 working sets of chest and 30 working sets of bicep. Like, there's so much volume being accumulated. They're just trashing themselves, right?
Yeah.
Even though you may only need 2 sets, 3 sets. If you got to failure, you may only need 1 or 2 sets to achieve what you need, and then you can go spend all your time and energy doing other things. You have only so much energy in the gym you can use. You have to disperse it right. So that's where people get burnt out. They just like, I did bench, and then I got to do flies, and I got to do pec deck, then I got to do 3 other things, and they're just destroyed. Oh, and then tomorrow I have to go do legs. Why don't I have the energy to do legs now, right? But you nailed it. Why? If you spread your energy around and do a bunch of things and just continually move through that, that's the right way to do. Everyone wants to just hyper specialize. I get a lot of people like, oh, I do powerlifting. I'm like, do you compete? Do you you have a 500-pound squat at 30-some years old? Do you need 505? Do you 510? You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things. There's the longevity aspect of it. So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I my buddy who actually was a coach at a CrossFit gym near Rosemont, he's a good buddy of mine, and he's now like a functional fitness trainer instead of like a CrossFit trainer, and like more of a powerlifting bodybuilding / like functional fitness gym. Mm-hmm. I got a lot of the ideas from him. Like, obviously I've seen it around. I was like big into like strongman competitions and stuff, but like you'll see what my training, like I know my limits, and like I know my genetic makeup. Like I know I'm not gonna be able to squat bigger than Danny Gracio. Like I know I dude, the guy is a monster. Like he's squatting like 500 for reps. Like I love the strength aspect, but I know maybe one day, maybe I'm just selling myself short. Maybe I'll squat 500 pounds. But now, like I've been getting into like sled work. I've been getting into farmer carries or farmer walks, and like I was able to pull and push like 750 pounds. I was able to farmer walk 450 or 425 pounds. So it's like, stuff like that. I think people don't really like to do in the gym, and they just like stick to the machines and like the barbell work because someone said it, right?
Right.
But I think we're gonna stop here. I like have a list, which I've been like slowly, like not even like hardly looking at, but Roman actually shot me over a list of like questions he had. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it today, but thank you so much for hopping on. And is it Dr. Kyle Richmond or Dr. Kyle Richmond, or is it
on Instagram? Yep.
Okay. And hopefully, maybe guys, you'll see some YouTube creation work with him eventually.
Yes.
And I'm so thankful to have you on here, buddy. Appreciate your time. And guys, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe, follow, like. We're on all audio and video platforms. So just go ahead and search that up, and then we'll see you guys in the next one. See you later.